We have the original Shimmer ADHD coach presenting, Noelle. I'm also one of our Shimmer coaches. And then we have our co-founder here, Chris, who's right next to us. You should see her on the screen as well. So thank you guys so much for coming. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Noelle to go ahead and just get to say hi to everybody.
Well, hey everyone, thanks for joining. So I guess a little bit about me. I'm one of the coaches here at Shimmer, and I also am like the content and curriculum person. So I make the learning material for the app, and I do the blog and newsletter. So if you follow our newsletter, you've already heard from me. So yeah, in this presentation, we're gonna, since there's a lot of participants, we're going to probably not have a whole lot of back and forth until the end. I'll try and leave a little bit of time at the end for people to ask questions or, comments, that kind of thing. But, um, it's more going to be like a high level overview of like some strategies and tips and stuff like that, because there's a lot to cover in an hour. But hopefully, if there's anything you have questions about, you can get to that at the end, or you can always contact us afterwards. So yeah, I guess that's it. We'll just dive right into it. So, yeah, the goals of the workshop are to talk about like the difference between what clean and functional means, and which of those things is more of a helpful mindset or goal to have when it comes to either spring cleaning or just cleaning in general. Then to have kind of a better understanding of what things are safe to get rid of, because that's like one of the biggest challenges I think a lot of people have is, am I going to need this later? That decision fatigue is exhausting. Hopefully have a chance to talk about doom piles a little bit, and then, learn some different strategies for approaching the spring cleaning or decluttering, and also how to stick with it over the long term. So starting off, clean versus functional. Um, you're here because you probably already know ADHD causes a lot of challenges with keeping things clean, and whether that's overwhelm or getting distracted in the middle of it or planning. And I think the biggest the most important thing is making sure that you're setting a realistic and achievable goal for your space. So you can, maybe type some answers in the chat if you have any, but thinking about just the term clean, what does that mean? First of all, is it, everything perfect like a magazine? That's how my parents viewed clean. And, we couldn't have a single glass on the counter or, one bit of clutter. It had to look like nobody lived there, right? So what does clean mean for you versus what does functional mean to you? Is there maybe a middle ground there? And is clean, whatever your definition of that is having a clean house or space actually realistic? Is it achievable? And what do you think? Why or why not? Why or why not? Same with functional. Is that realistic and achievable? Is it more or less realistic and achievable? Why or why not? So someone said clean means you can eat off of it. It's a good definition. Looks like the show home. Yeah. Functional means you can use it. Yeah. So, yeah, if anyone else wants to chime in with their thoughts, uh, but in general, I think what tends to be more realistic and achievable for people is the idea of a functional space, because clean kind of sets you up with a black and white mentality. Either it's clean or it's not. Functional, there's a lot more wiggle room and flexibility there. And also, clean is not often achievable, or if it is, it's for a very short time, because life doesn't pause once you're done with the cleaning. So, um, yeah. So that goes into like, okay, how do you set a goal and what type of goal? Achievement-based goals is like having a clean space. So, achievement-based goals focus on the outcome or end result. It's about reaching a very specific target or milestone. And that's good for some things, less good for others. Then there's process-based goals, which are about the exact actions and steps taken more than it's about the end result. It emphasizes the journey rather than the destination and offers you more flexibility. So I think when it comes to keeping your space clean, maybe, a spring cleaning kind of sprint, might be an achievement-based goal, or, there could be achievement-based goals on that. I want to today finish cleaning these rooms. That's an achievement-based goal. A process-based goal would be for the maintenance. So, okay, once you get your space to the type of, uh, functional or clean that you want, then the process goal would be, okay, I would like to maintain it at this level. So that said, start with decluttering. I think in my experience, working with clients, the biggest challenges that people tend to encounter when it comes to cleaning, decluttering is, first of all, like things that have that emotional attachment, sentimental items that they maybe don't really have a function, they don't have like a clear place, but you don't really want to get rid of it because, oh, my aunt so and so gave it to me, or uh, oh, this brings back memories of whatever, and it's hard to get rid of. Then there's the overwhelm and procrastination, especially if your place is, gone unkept for a little while. It gets to be bigger and bigger. You're looking around the room. You're like, where do I even start? Decision fatigue. So that's, even about where to start or what to get rid of, or, you know, there's a bunch of decisions that go into cleaning. Then there's the just in case stuff. So, okay, you're trying to figure out what to get rid of. And there's that big pile of cords that you don't really know what they all go to or what they're for, but I'm going to save it just in case. And you may never use it for ever because you have no idea what it's for, but just in case. Same with like selling things. You may acquire a bunch of things that they're gently used or new, you haven't used them. You could sell it so you keep it, but then you never follow through on the selling part. So it just sits there. And then perfectionism comes up a lot with ADHD in general, but getting rid of things the right way. So, oh, I know that, this thing needs to be recycled like a batteries or electronics needs to be recycled, and I don't know where to take it, and get stuck somewhere in between, figuring out where to take it or how to take it there or whatever. So those are some of the biggest challenges that I see with clients, and we won't be able to get into all of them today, but we'll get into a few of them. So on this one, just the biggest categories I think that can be quick wins. First of all is paperwork. If you're anything like me, you've got papers just kind of like all over the place in various rooms, pile of sticky notes that you haven't touched in, a year, or mail that piles up, or, receipts or bills that you're like, oh, I don't know if I should keep this. So we'll send out the link to this slideshow later. You'll be able to follow all these links, but for the how long should I keep, etc., there's a site that I've linked to here that kind of tells you for each type of paperwork about how long you should hold on to it. But in general, I think the sort of TLDR version was that for like anything that is a receipt or, dealing with a purchase, if it's already cleared in your bank, then you can probably get rid of it. The only exception would be if there's a like a return policy and you have paperwork on that. You want to keep the return policy until it expires. But yeah, anyway, as soon as it clears your bank account, you can probably get rid of it. And then there's like medical stuff, tax stuff, those type of things. The recommendation was after 3 years, you can probably get rid of it. But yeah, you can check out that link later and see their recommendations for all different types of paperwork. Then clothing. A lot of people struggle with getting rid of clothing. Maybe, well, it fits, and I still like it, but I haven't used it in forever. And you don't want to just throw it away, right? So there's a lot of different options. There's sites you can use that will buy back your gently used clothes, places that you can recycle them, and of course, donating. And then electronics and cables. I put here links to, I think the recycle one goes to a basically a map database where you can enter your location and it'll tell you nearby places that you can take your electronics to. And then there's buyback sites like this one, the green buyback. You basically just upload or tell them, I guess, in a form, hey, this is the stuff I have. They email you back with an offer on your stuff, and then you mail it to them. And then you can also donate to like schools or your Girl Scouts, STEM programs. They all often welcome electronics and cables for, learning purposes. So yeah, just places that you can take these types of things. Tips for sentimental items. There's a lot you can do here. I think one of the hardest is the setting boundaries. So for me, it was, okay, I have very limited space. I live in an apartment. So deciding, okay, how much of my limited space can I dedicate to just storing things I'm not ever going to really use or, take out more than once a year. And so, maybe that's you pick a tote or a box or something. And you're like, okay, everything that I keep has to fit in here. And that really can kind of help with the decision making because you have, a very clear physical boundary right there. Um, but yeah, you can take photos of the items. Uh, I know people will upload them in, Notion or in Google Docs. They'll take a picture and then write a little blurb about, oh, this reminds me of this thing, or talk about that memory or whatever it is. And then it's still not easy to get rid of, but you don't have to worry about forgetting the memory or forgetting what the item looked like. Creating a memory book or scrapbook, memory box or scrapbook. If you don't have these skills, there's people on Etsy who can do that for you. So, send them your, full paraphernalia or whatever it is, and they send you back a nice little memory box. So that's an option, or regifting to loved ones. Kind of a way to be like, oh, this is from this experience that I had. Let me tell you about it. And now you have the thing. Reflection and acceptance. I hate the word acceptance. I don't know about you, but just, take some time with the item to allow yourself to like relive that memory. Be like, yeah, that was really cool. And accept the fact that, yeah, I'm never going to actually relive that. So it's okay to move on from that experience. And of course, that part helps if you're using one of the other tips, like taking pictures or keeping a scrapbook or something. If you have a little bit more space to keep things, especially like decorative items, we already kind of do this with holiday stuff. So, you'll have your box of Christmas stuff or your box of Halloween stuff or whatever, and you take it out, you decorate, and you put it back when the season's over. You can do that with, if you have a excess of, sentimental or decorative items that you would like to be displaying but don't have the space, you could have, maybe a box for every 3 to 4 months, right? And display these things this month and then take those down. The things in this box, I'll replace that in kind of your own sentimental seasons. And then ultimately seek support if you really struggle to get rid of this stuff, whether that's family member, or friend, your coach. I had to do this a few years ago. I had boxes and boxes of old stuff from like even as young as elementary school, and it was just taking up too much space. And my partner at the time had to sit down with me and like kind of babysit me as I went through the process. And the thing that really helped the most was whenever I would get caught up in like, oh, I remember this thing and oh, this was so cool and I want to reminisce about it. She would tell me, okay, let's take it and set it aside and reminisce later and get back to the decision making. So that really like cut down on the amount of time that I was spending on the whole process. I could get through the majority of the items and make decisions about them. And then after all that was done, I could go back to the things I wanted to sit with and make decisions about those after I was done reliving the experience. It also helps to just like have a second opinion on like, should I keep this? Bathroom products, that's another one. I know like my aunt, if you open her closet and she could probably stock a pharmacy with the amount of like excess soaps and shampoos and various things you pick up at hotels or whatever. It's really insane, and that takes a lot of space. So if you have that stuff and it's gently used, you can donate it to local shelters. But otherwise, it's okay to throw it away. I think one of the things that at least helped me was being really clear about my values. When it comes to just for me, do I value, the sustainability or uh, being ecologically conscious of not throwing away these things, or like the monetary piece of like, oh yeah, I could like hold on to this until I could sell it to someone. Do I value that over the functionality and just the relief and lack of stress that is, I have from having a space that isn't functional or that is cluttered. Um, it's extremely distracting for me to have just stuff. If my office isn't like neat and tidy, I can't work. That's why I'm at the library right now. I I didn't have time to clean my office. Too distracting with everything sitting around. So I go to the library. Um, so, thinking about, do you value having that clean, functional space over the whatever your reasons are for holding on to that stuff? I think that's another important thing to kind of reflect on. So this is kind of the strategy that I tend to use for decluttering stuff. It's probably not the best one in the world. This is just what I do. So first, choosing an item type, clothing, paperwork, whatever it is, and gather all of that item in one place. Maybe, it's clothing. There's all different rooms that have clothing in it. I'll just gather everything into one room. Then start with 4 different containers, a keep container, a donate, a throwaway, and a miscellaneous. You then start by sorting items into these categories. And for that, I try to say like 30 seconds or less for making that decision. That'll keep you like moving through it. Any item that you can't decide 30 seconds, that goes into the miscellaneous pile. And then once you're finished with sorting, then you throw away the ones that you're throwing away, donate items, take them to your car right away, so they're not sitting in your house and you're forgetting about it. And then you can put away the ones that you want to keep. And then you can go to the miscellaneous box and sort of repeat the cycle. Similar to like I shared about the getting rid of sentimental items, this is kind of the same approach of like setting aside the things that you want to make decisions about, but you don't want that to slow down your process. So now that you've done most of the items, you can go back to that miscellaneous pile and start again. Go through it. If you still can't make a decision about things, at this point, this is where maybe asking a friend or family member or somebody to help you out. And really, it's totally going to be up to you. I've seen lots of recommendations about how to make those decisions, like for clothes. If you haven't worn it in a year, get rid of it. That kind of thing. But I also want to acknowledge that not everybody has the privilege of being able to get rid of things just because you haven't worn it in a while, for a million different reasons. I have a client who has, a lot of chronic health stuff. So their weight tends to fluctuate pretty significantly and pretty frequently. So it wouldn't make sense to get rid of clothes that don't fit right when they don't fit. So instead, we talked about, okay, like let's separate your clothes into like containers based on general sizing, sizes, 10 to 16, put them in this one, sizes, whatever. And that way she has, the things put away and not in her space whenever she's not going to be wearing them, and she can get them out and just swap them out. So yeah. So the next few things I wanted to talk about come from the book Keeping Household Brownie by Casey Davis. I actually just started this book this week after it's been recommended for forever. Highly recommend, by the way. I'm not even done. I'm like, everybody needs to read this book. It's fantastic. But this is the strategy that Casey Davis proposed for not necessarily spring cleaning, but just sort of a general tidying method. And I really like it because it really simplifies things. There's only 5 categories of items in a particular room that I think, at least for me, is like a manageable number of categories of things. So according to her framework, there's 5 types of things in any given room. There's trash, dishes, laundry, things that have a place and are not in it, and things that just don't have a place yet. So then this is kind of a walkthrough of strategy. You start by taking a trash bag, go through the room, pick up all the trash, put it in the bag, and then you set the trash bag and any larger trash items like cardboard boxes, etc., near the door, but you don't take it out right away. Then you do the same thing with the dishes. Gather them all up, put them in your sink or on the counter. Don't do them yet. Do that with laundry. Take a laundry basket, pick up all the clothes and shoes, put them in the basket. Oh, it's not supposed to say next to the trash pile. Put them in the basket and put them like in the laundry room or near the washer dryer. Don't start it yet. Then you would pick a space in your room, like a corner or a desk or table, whatever, and put away any items that are on it that have a place. Everything else that doesn't have a place, gather it all up in that corner on the desk or whatever. And now you have the rest of your space is pretty much picked up. All you have to deal with is the things that don't have place. So in that situation, you could spend some time kind of going through them and deciding, okay, these are things that don't have a place. Do I make some decisions right now about where they go, or do I get rid of them? And this is kind of like where I think doom boxes or doom piles or whatever terminology you want to use can come in handy, actually, because they don't have to be a bad thing if you manage them in a helpful way. Like this whole process of the cleaning, especially if you're doing an actual like spring cleaning whole house and it's a huge project, that's exhausting. And having to like stop and make decisions about things at that time or even like afterwards, not for me. So it's totally fine to have a container of things that, okay, I'm going to deal with this later. The trick is actually scheduling a time in your calendar to deal with it later and putting in place, extra accountability or whatever it is you need to make sure you actually do take that time to make those decisions and go through it. So for me, I have like a small, one of those sort of like felt bins that you put like in a cubby. And I have one of those in every room. And I'm like, okay, everything that doesn't have a place, I don't have the time or energy or spoons to figure out what to do with it right now, is just going in that cubby. And that makes sure that the room looks uncluttered because all the clutter is in one container. And B, it kind of limits me a little bit. I can't have a giant box or pile of, doom items. I do have to at least push myself to make some decisions, but the hardest things can go in there. And then once a week, I have, like an hour set aside to go through each of those and say, okay, now is the time to make decisions. Um, but yeah, and then the last step of this strategy would be, okay, now that you've done all the collecting, go take the trash out, put the laundry in the wash, do the dishes. Casey Davis says she saves the dishes for the next day, but yeah. So I think this method is definitely more in the realm of functional, and I think that's what she kind of proposes, is focusing on having a functional space rather than a clean space. And when you do these particular steps, your space may not be spotless, but it's going to be a lot more functional. So these are other tips that I have used with various clients. The first one is staying in one room at a time in the process. So, that Casey Davis's strategy kind of works for that to an extent, but the big thing, I think, or one of the big things that tends to happen for us is that you're cleaning the room and you're like, oh yeah, this thing, I know where it goes. It goes in this room, and you go to put it away. And on the way to put it away, you see something else, and you're like, oh, I need to do that. And we just get on all these side quests, and you may never return to the original room. Or you do hours later, and now you're too tired. So stay in one room. I also read something, some research paper maybe, but it's talking about how doorways act as kind of like a boundary for our memory. So like as soon as you cross that boundary, everything you were thinking about in that room kind of dissipates. So if you've ever had that experience of like, okay, I was doing something, what was I doing? And you have to go back to where you were when you had the idea. That's kind of, I think, what this was getting at. So try not to cross boundaries while you're in this process. Do everything you can in one room. Use the bins to kind of collect, okay, everything in this bin needs to go to other rooms. And then once you're done cleaning, you take the bin and put things where they go in the other rooms. And then the other thing is, this is especially for overwhelm, decision fatigue, regular fatigue. People with ADHD have often either smaller batteries, and or we kind of burn through our energy, our mental energy, way quicker than a neurotypical person. So that we need to kind of focus on how do we conserve our energy, how do we replenish that energy. And I think one of the things that we can often sort of use as a tool or a crutch is hyperfocus. If we can get started on something and really get into it, we can just really engage and knock it out. But by the end of that time, you might be totally exhausted, and it may take, you can't do anything the rest of the evening or maybe even the next day because you just spent way more fuel than you actually had. So my suggestion is to work like 5 minutes at a time if you're overwhelmed. And if you get started and you're tempted to keep going and hyperfocus, don't do that. When the timer goes off, get up, take a walk around the house and then come back. And if you still feel like you want to keep going and do more cleaning, okay, cool. But otherwise, take some time to do something rejuvenating like mindfulness or yoga or whatever it is for you, coloring, whatever for you is like a nice brain break. And then you can go back to the cleaning. And when you do that, you're ensuring that you're going to like recharge your battery for that next short sprint. And it also keeps it from being overwhelming because especially when you're trying to get motivated to get started, if you're looking at a whole room and you're like, I'm going to have to clean for hours in order to get this done, probably not even ever going to start. But if you say, oh, I only have to do 5 minutes, I could probably handle 5 minutes. And giving yourself that permission, I think, is super important. The permission to do just 5 minutes and stop and not shame yourself about it. Because even if you stop and then you're like sitting here in that sort of shame and self blame and oh my gosh, like everybody else can clean for an hour and I can't, and what's wrong with me? I really should have done more, whatever the thoughts are for you, that keeps your brain from recharging, even if you're doing, something relaxing. So that is a super important thing. And I put this quote here to kind of help reinforce that you're struggling to make the change because the old behavior is still meeting a need. So instead of shaming yourself, identify the need and allow it to exist. Then get curious about a new way to meet it. If you're super overwhelmed by cleaning and keeping your house, neat and tidy, then you avoiding it or, procrastinating is meeting a need. You're meeting the need of peace and not being stressed and not being overwhelmed. And yeah, it causes more problems down the road, but you're still meeting a need. So instead of feeling shame about the fact that you're struggling, identify what that need is. Why am I avoiding it? Why am I procrastinating? And come up with new ways, either by yourself or with a coach or friend or someone, come up with new ways to address that need. Oh, I'm overwhelmed about this and that's why I'm avoiding it. What else can I do instead of avoiding that is not going to lead to shame? So, okay. So whatever strategy you use, you did the thing, you did your spring cleaning or whatever it is, and now your space is like pretty functional, pretty good about it. How do you keep it that way? So I think I really liked this quote by Casey Davis. A simple plan to keep a space livable is better than an overwhelming plan to keep the place perfect. So again, that goes back to the, goal setting and making sure that the goal you set, and in this case, the plan for attaining that goal, is actually a reasonable and doable goal. And these were some sort of, I guess, mindset things that came from the book. So this schedule or plan that you have for cleaning and tidying and maintaining that plan is here to serve you. You don't serve the schedule. So don't let that, Maybe you put together a to-do list or a chore chart like, oh, on these days I'm going to do these, and on these days I'm going to do these things. Don't let that have the power over you to where, oh, I didn't get to do this thing, and I said I was going to do it on Monday, and I didn't do it Monday. Now I feel awful about it. The schedule is here to serve you. You're not serving the schedule. Missing days is morally neutral. Not bad. It's not good. It's not bad. It's nothing. Okay. Outsourcing cleaning tasks, morally neutral. There's really no reason to be ashamed about it. I think our society wants us to be ashamed about it because we see everybody else doing the thing. But everybody outsources some tasks. Maybe we outsource doing our taxes. Maybe we outsource, grocery shopping or making dinner by ordering DoorDash or whatever it is. Everybody outsources some things. So just because you need to outsource something else to make your life less stressful, more manageable, nothing wrong with that. You can outsource your laundry, you can outsource your cleaning, any of those cleaning tasks. It's okay. You don't have to complete a whole task. If you can only do 2 minutes of the dishes, that's way better than 0 minutes of doing the dishes. And it doesn't happen all at once. I think another thing that we tend to struggle with is we get all excited about putting together this plan or strategy or whatever for, oh, I'm gonna, keep my place clean and this is how I'm gonna do it. And we get so excited about coming up with this perfect system that we burn out on it after just a couple of days. And it's better to start small and build tiny habits over time. Casey Davis said it took them a year to actually get to a point where they were keeping their place like pretty consistently neat and tidy. So it's okay to take your time. And if there's a task that, let's say you put it on your daily to-do list or your weekly to-do list or whatever, and it just consistently isn't getting done, take it off the list. I was like kind of blown away by that suggestion myself. It's like, okay, well, it needs to get done, right? But this goes back to the shame thing. The quote was, it wasn't getting done when it was on the list, but now that I took it off, I don't feel guilty about it. So if it's not getting done either way, why put yourself in the position of having to constantly see that reminder of the fact that you didn't do it? So, okay. So strategy wise, again, there's going to be like everybody has their own preferences and things that work for them better than others. But this is, I think, the sort of strategy or routine that Casey Davis suggested. So a weekly routine of picking just one space, like one room maybe, that you want to keep more livable, and think of just 4 to 6 tasks that if you do it every week, it would make the space livable. Maybe not clean, but livable. And then you try and add those tasks to an already established routine. So maybe your 4 tasks, you're like, oh, I'm going to do those before I start getting ready for bed or first thing in the morning. That's, that kind of habit stacking or habit linking is a really popular suggestion for building new habits. You can create a cleaning kit. I know one of the things that I tended to run into a lot was, okay, I want to clean, but I have, the vacuum is in this closet over here, and then these cleaning items are under this sink, and then oh, there's these other cleaning items under the bathroom sink, and I'm running all over the place trying to collect things that I need. And especially if you're already in the process of cleaning, and now you have to stop and figure out, where did I put this thing? That's gonna like interrupt the whole process. So if you create like a cleaning kit that is just everything you need in this one container, then you can bring it with you to whatever room. This link goes to the cleaning kit that Casey Davis suggested. Then you can have a restock day. So maybe this is something you put on your calendar, like on the weekend or whenever you have a little extra time. And you can have like an inventory. I just made this quick little image of it, but like an inventory of, okay, these are like the cleaning items that I know I need to like have in my kit, for example. And on your restock day, you just double check and be like, okay, is everything full? Did I run out of something last time and I need to get it? That just kind of ensures that whenever you get to your dedicated like weekly cleaning routine, that you don't get stopped by, oh my gosh, like now I can't do it because I totally forgot to go get that thing that I needed. And then she also suggested a closing duties ritual. So, kind of if you've ever worked at a retail store, there's usually like, the manager, shift leader, whoever who's responsible for all the tasks that need to be done before everybody gets out. Making sure everything's clean, the drawers counted and the doors are locked, lights are off. So you can create a closing duties ritual for yourself at the end of the day. She says, when you struggle with motivation, remember you're doing it as a kindness to future you. And what does future you need to function tomorrow? Those are the things that you want to have on your closing duties ritual. Again, starting with micro habits. So micro habits is kind of like breaking down the habit you want to have into tiny pieces. So for example, maybe the habit you want to have is at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure all the dishes are done. Well, the micro habit version of that would be, okay, I'm just going to start with getting into the micro habit of, at the end of the day, I collect all the dishes from the rest of the house and put them on the counter. That's it. Once you've established that habit of, at the end of the day, I gather the dishes, I put them on the counter. Then you add to it, okay, now my next micro habit is I collect everything, I put it on the counter, I rinse it all off. And you build on it. So, and then little things like cleaning during commercial breaks or between steps and cooking makes it super bite-sized and doable. I love this app called Toady. It's like a color code system, and for each room you have a list of like, oh, these are the cleaning tasks that I want to do, and you can change how often you want to do them. And then as let's say you say, oh, every week I want to do the vacuuming. As that week approaches, the color coding goes from green to yellow to orange to red. And I like that a lot more than having just a harsh, like, do it by this date. It's also gamified because you are defeating the dust bunny, the evil dust bunny. But yeah, so we only have about 10 minutes left. So you'll get the link to all this later. You can go through all these other suggestions. This pause button mentality one was actually created for like exercise and nutrition, but it's totally applicable to any habit. So yeah, and then keeping it different by choosing like 3 or 4 different strategies or processes or whatever, and intentionally switching between them so that you don't get so bored of a cleaning routine or strategy that you just don't do it anymore. So yeah, now we got all kinds of additional resources for you to check out later. At this point, that was a whole lot and I went through it quickly. So let's see, does anyone have questions?
So we'll give people a second to type out some questions for Noelle, but I did see one that didn't come through as a question, but I thought was so important to acknowledge. They mentioned it was hard to see their partner's clutter. So dealing with overwhelm of someone else's items in your own home and maybe some strategies to deal with that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think, you know, just from a coaching perspective, my first question would be like, how have you communicated that to your partner? And can you potentially like negotiate with them about, okay, what are we as a couple or as a household going to agree to as far as clutter and guidelines, and how can I help support you in your part of that?
They responded saying, I just saw something that somehow his clutter is more annoying than my own because mine makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important insight.
Yeah, I like that, having a mantra while you're doing your chores so that you don't like get distracted. You can do that when you're going through doorways as well, like so that you don't forget what you were doing.
Someone else had pointed out concerns about shredding. If there's sensitive information and they're concerned about throwing it away, if there's any workarounds.
There are a variety of different companies that will do shredding for you. You could also go to like a FedEx or UPS or something. Um, Maybe that's something that you put on your calendar, like once a month, I'm gonna make a quick stop at FedEx or whatever and go shred all my sensitive information.
And then we did have someone share, not as a comment, but I think this would resonate for anyone that wasn't reading through the chat, that there is pressure when people are coming over to have the house look a certain way or is supposed to look a certain way. So having a junk room or a junk drawer where everything just sort of ends up and that becoming a doom pile.
Yeah.
I don't know if that resonates with anyone else.
Yeah, it's the closet in cartoons where you open it and everything just falls out like an avalanche. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Have your doom closet or whatever it is, as long as you set aside the time to actually deal with it on a regular basis so it doesn't become avalanche worthy.
Yeah, so it looks like for the most part, you went very in depth. So just a reminder for everyone that joined a little bit late that we will have the recording available. We'll be able to send out this presentation as well. So all of these links that Noelle took the time to put in, you'll have access to go through on your own time. And in the type form, any questions that you feel like weren't addressed or you still want to keep going over, we can get to it too that way. And it also gives you an option to tell us what you want to hear about in the future if you want to hear Noelle speak on anything else. And just a quick reminder, if after all this you still don't feel like you have the exact direction you need to go for yourself, we all have our own journeys. We all need our own systems. It can be really helpful to work with a coach and create your own personal, unique system to last you. So, just a reminder, Shimmer is an ADHD coaching company. You can always come to us to find the coach you need. And thank you guys so much for starting your spring off with us. Um, spring cleaning for me is not fun, but it's a whole lot more fun when 30 other people are trying to do it with you. So thank you so much, Noelle. We'll stay on for another 2-3 minutes just to see if any other questions come up. But thank you guys so much for coming on this wonderful Wednesday.
Yeah, someone asked about showers. My, I guess, 3 favorite things are Dawn Power Wash. It's not just for dishes, it's literally magical. Um, there's like a Dawn Power Wash cult in the ADHD realm. If you didn't already know, it's amazing. Dawn Power Wash, Clorox Cleanup. For some reason, it like I do my hair, I do like blue all the time, and I noticed, my hands always got blue stains. Um, but whenever I cleaned the area with the Clorox cleanup, it magically took the blue off my hands too. And then I was like, ooh, what else will this work on? It works on a lot. And then your kind of basic, like, I think it's baking powder, baking soda, and vinegar. That works for a lot of stuff.
Any last questions? We're at the 2-minute mark, so I know people are dropping out. Dawn Power Washer, and what was the second that you recommended, Noelle?
Clorox cleanup. Yeah, that is hard. Like I have chronic pain and fatigue too, so that's why like having those products that you just spray on, leave it for a minute or two, and rinse it off, or just like a really light wipe down is awesome.
All right. On that note, we're at the 59. We have finished spring cleaning, and we'll see you guys for the next events. We do have some upcoming events for tax body doubling, and we have some May mindfulness too. You'll be getting emails. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter to see what's upcoming. We have body doubling 3 times a week. We got a couple events scheduled for April, May, June already, and can't wait to see you guys all there. Have a great Wednesday, everyone.